This episode is sponsored by the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. August's featured entertainment includes Low Cash on the 2nd, Dog Star on the 9th, and Fortune Feimster on the 10th. Details and tickets on HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The Grammy-winning folk rock duo Indigo Girls rocks Wolf Trap on August 24th and 25th. I spoke with co-founder Emily Saliers about the band's journey from hits like Closer to Fine and Galileo to a recent resurgence in the zeitgeist thanks to Greta Gerwig's blockbuster film Barbie. Hey, Emily Saliers. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP in Washington, D.C.
Hi, Jason.
We are talking to one half of the legendary folk rock duo Indigo Girls, which is coming to Wolf Trap here in Virginia on August 24th and 25th. So everybody get your tickets. Now, I know, I guess let's start. I know that Melissa Etheridge is touring with you, and I was going to say opening for you, but actually, I think, aren't you swapping, like who's opening and closing depending on the night?
Yeah, it's a true co-bill. So the first night, Melissa will close the night, and the second night, Indigo Girls will close the night. We're super excited for this tour.
Oh, yeah. My wife and I saw Melissa Etheridge, what was it, at the Birchmere in Virginia. Man, she will rock your face off. You two will do the same. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
I know. We've never done a tour with her before like this, and we're going to be out with the full band. And, of course, Wolf Trap is one of my favorite venues in the country, so I'm just super excited to come back.
Yeah, I feel like every summer, you check out the listing, and I feel like Indigo Girls is always on there. So why is that? Why is it the best spot? Is it because it's sort of like situated in like a national park? It's like a cool outdoor folky vibe.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful, and it's a wonderful venue, like a beautiful venue. And I think we've just been there so many years that it's like, we're coming back to Wolf Trap. It's a big deal. And then to do 2 nights at Wolf Trap is a really big deal. We don't always get to do that. And then I just have lots of memories of like bugs flying in my mouth because it's very buggy, it's very muggy, it's very outdoorsy, and just a summer vibe with people out there, some on the lawn and some in the pavilion. And then we love the staff there. The food is always good. I mean, I could go on and on.
That's funny you said that. My wife and I just went down to the Out and About Festival. They do the big Pride weekend with Brittany Howard and Jenny Lewis. It was really, really cool, but actually wasn't too buggy when we were there, actually. It was a really nice weekend.
That sounds like a great festival. I love those artists, too, the ones you just mentioned, Brittany and Jenny Lewis.
Yeah, you should check it out one time. But yeah. So yeah, like we're saying, it's if people have been coming to see you all every summer at Wolf Trap, it's sort of an annual tradition. You can't miss it. You got to go do it again, especially with Melissa Etheridge this time. Come on, you got to do it, everybody. You come every year, but how has it changed in the last year, post the smash Barbie, Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie singing You're Closer to Fine in the car? Like, that was the biggest movie, not only of last summer, but of the last years. It was the biggest blockbuster. So how's it been, touring from last summer when that came out to now? Like, have you seen like a spike in younger audiences? Is it like multiple generations coming out now?
We have definitely gotten a boost. We've seen a spike in particularly younger women coming to the shows. Like, we always had our fans that started bringing their kids, which was super cool. But sometimes I look out in the audience and I see a younger demographic and I'm like, how did these people find out about us? So I've got to attribute a lot of it to Barbie. We also had a documentary come out, It's Only Life After All, that's now on Netflix, which has been given us, a larger audience for people to check into our history and our story and what we're all about. And then we did the music for the film Glitter and Doom. So an indie film, a love story between 2 men. So it's been...
that was What We Want to Be, right? That was the song you did.
Yeah, what we want to be. And we're going to be doing that live with the band this summer. And so it's kind of been a banner period of time for us. We couldn't have predicted all that stuff landing at the same time. So it's just been this like real groundswell of refreshment and a little bit of a newer, newer demographic coming along to the shows. And that's exciting when you've been at it as long as Amy and I have.
Well, that's it really is exciting. Well, there you go. That's what'll happen when you have Barbie, Glitter and Doom, and It's Only Life After All at the same time, paired with
Like,
all of your great timeless
seriously,
hits.
seriously, we couldn't have put it all together even in a dream. It's been
That
awesome.
It's awesome. Well, speaking, I mean, I know everyone can check out the documentary It's Only Life After All for the full story, but while we have you, let's get at least somewhat of an abridged version of your all's origin story. I know you were born in New Haven, Connecticut back in like the 60s. Actually, not funny now that I see that. My wife and I were just in Stamford a couple months ago. It was beautiful. We brought our dog. It was great. But any memories of the New Haven days? Was there Frank was what's up there? Frank Pepe Pizza or what childhood
Oh,
memory?
yeah, we had Pepe Pizza and Sorrentino's Pizza was a big
Yeah.
one. I mean, my dad was at Yale. He was a grad student there, and he taught there. He taught theology. It was
Yeah.
I do remember it because it was an incredible formative period for me. We lived in assisted housing in New Haven, and it was the Vietnam War,
Hmm.
a strong Black Panther movement. The trials are happening in New Haven. It was just a tinderbox of political and social change. And I was a sensitive child. And even as a very, very young kid, I remember all that and the vibe in my own neighborhood. But we moved to Georgia when I was 10. So really, I quite relate to the South in terms of my orientation.
Hmm.
But I have very, very vivid memories of New Haven. And but yeah, when I came to the South and Amy and I met in elementary school, I think I was 10 or 11 and she was a year younger. Then we went to the same high school. We ended up
Yeah.
graduating from Emory together, just like totally aligned and started this organic musical journey together that just blossomed and kept going, got signed to a major label. It's like, who
Yeah.
thought that would happen? We didn't.
But
Same age.
I think
Yeah.
that mix of backgrounds is what makes you such a great artist and a well-rounded person. You have the New England, Black Panther, Vietnam War, roots, and then you mix in growing up a lot of your adolescent years in the deep South in Georgia, and so you can combine the two, and you can sort of speak to all of America. I think it's
Yeah,
well-rounded.
it's a good point. I mean, there's a lot to think about. And growing up in the South, and Amy's fourth generation Southerner, so she's steeped in the history of the South and spends a lot of time trying to come to terms and
Mhm.
make amends and just grow from that experience of being fourth generation Southerner. And I've just been we've been enmeshed in the politics here in Georgia. It's a very exciting time. There's such a history of incredible Black political power in Atlanta. And,
Yeah.
we've got our heroines like Stacey Abrams, and then I used to vote for John Lewis at the voting booth. So it's like
Rest in
it's
peace.
a very, very inspiring, historical, powerful place to be involved in social issues. And so, if you know Amy's and my music, we write about that a lot. So it makes sense that our histories would speak to that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You to quote John Lewis, you've been getting into good trouble yourselves.
We
um,
have a lot of people to pave the way, that's for sure.
well, yeah, and we won't sidetrack into that too much, but it is from Stacey Abrams in the last couple cycles and Trump calling out Kemp, the Republican governor, because he didn't find more votes for it is an insane time in Georgia. But thanks for leading the charge on a lot of that stuff.
Hey,
Um,
we're just happy to be a part.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to, remind everyone. So we keep saying Amy. This is, of course, Amy Ray, the fellow founder here, the duo here. And she was from actually Decatur, Georgia, right?
Yeah,
So that's,
yeah.
yeah. So you combine their Shamrock High School talent. Well, I guess it was Laurel Ridge Elementary School and then Shamrock High School. What were do you remember the early, like, before you officially formed Indigo Girls, like some of the early band names that maybe you played in local bars underage or talent shows, or you know what I mean? Like, what were some of the early inceptions of it?
Well, the first in high school, we both had fake IDs. We started playing in bars. Our parents knew. And we went by Sailors and Ray, which bored us. And then we were called the B Band for a while, but that went away. And then I was actually being a camp counselor up in North Georgia, and Amy called me. She's like, "What do you think of the name? What do you think of the word indigo?" I remember this really clearly, just standing there in the kitchen. I was like, Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. She always has good ideas. And I'm like, well, let's just add girls for alliteration, because I was an English major. So
Not
Indigo,
alliterative at all.
I know, like if we'd rethought it now looking at it at our age and our history, Indigo Girls, like the girls doesn't make sense, but it's just
Yeah.
become synonymous with our band obviously, and but that was the moment that we did it. But I remember all through high school going over to Amy's house and practicing and learning cover songs and writing our own songs, and
Yeah.
we just always had a wonderful time together making music. It was organic from beginning to this day as I speak to
Yeah.
you. The process and the inspiration has remained the same.
Well, it was all building to this interview, really. I mean, this is what it was all working towards.
Well, coming to
No.
Wolf Trap, speaking to you,
Yeah,
life was
exactly. Well, I gotta say, Indigo is a really catchy title. So great, alliterative or not, it is catchy as hell. It works.
thanks.
All right. So then you two both you sort of went off to different colleges, but then you transferred back to Emory College, right in Georgia, and that's where you officially formed Indigo Girls as a name in '85. The breakthrough album was Stranger Fire in '87. I think that went gold. But how did you actually get signed for the first one?
Well, Strange Fire we put out independently in
Gotcha.
1987, and then when we got signed to Epic Records, we got signed in '88, and then they re-released a version which was slightly different from the original, and then the eponymous Indigo Girls album came out in '89.
Gotcha. So you would consider Stranger Fire like a independently released prologue for then the big technically Indigo Girls was the second album, but for most people it was the big breakthrough that everybody recognized. Okay.
Well,
So
it
that
was yeah.
yeah,
It was an album that we took
yeah,
along on the road with us. We'd made a
yeah,
single. We borrowed money from Amy's
yeah.
dad and made a single, like a 45, and sold it on Emory's campus. I mean, it was really DIY all the way.
That's great. And that went double platinum. So was the single you're talking about was that Closer to Fine? I know you wrote
Oh
that
no,
on
no,
that
no!
album.
I mean, an early song,
Oh,
way before all that, and then
okay.
the first single from Indigo Girls, the Epic release, was the first single that did really well out of the box, and then we were off and running.
Gotcha. So how did you write Closer to Fine? I have to ask that because I mean, we mentioned Barbie at the top, but back as when it was just that first song that no one knew about, we're talking to the voice, the hands that wrote that song. So how did you come up with it?
Well, I was thinking about, I remember it was my family, we stayed at this cabin in Vermont, and I was sitting on the porch of the cabin in Vermont, and I was just thinking about all the sources that I sought to get my answers in life. It was a little bit of a talk down for me, like, it's going to be okay. You can get from this source, and you can get from this source,
Nice.
it's all going to work out. So you'll be closer to fine. Just live and do your thing and seek the sources you have to seek, but don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Ah, I like that. Well, that's probably why it's inspiring for everyone that listens to it, who are sitting on our own, porches in
I
our
don't know, but
proverbial Vermonts.
somewhere in the world at some point, Greta Gerwig was listening to it. She chose it for the Barbie movie, so thank God. I don't know, but we love Greta Gerwig,
Yeah.
and that the gift of Barbie just fell
Yeah.
out of the sky.
Well, you know what? If anyone had been following Greta's films, leading up to Barbie, like the indie stuff, I'm talking like even pre Lady Bird, like when she was working with Noah and starring and writing and stuff like that. I could totally see how she'd be an Indigo Girls fan. Like that just fits. That's on brand. You know what I mean?
Well,
Uh,
it's an honor because
yeah.
we love her work so much, both Amy and I.
Oh, a genius walking amongst us right now. I can't wait to see what else she does. All right, so then that album, what wins the Grammy for contemporary folk performance, and then also gets you to nominated for best new artist, like overall, not just in folk, but overall, and lost to Millie Vanilli, who later, of course, had to vacate the award. What did you think about that all going down? Were you like, dang, we could have been the ones in there right between Tracy Chapman and Mariah Carey, in the years there. We instead it's just listed vacant.
Well, we did hear later on from inside sources. I don't know if it's true or not, but that we were second in line for that award. So,
Ah,
but it did at the time. Just winning a Grammy for anything
yeah,
was just so exciting, and I mean, it was a very head spinning time for me and Amy. We were just not used to that. We were a bar band from Georgia, and making our own way. And so to have, to win a Grammy was sort of otherworldly. And so I wasn't feeling particularly greedy about winning another Grammy. And it was just an odd story. I actually felt sorry for those guys because now if
Yeah.
you think about all the people that lip sync or what's created in the studio,
Especially nowadays. Yeah.
I know, but that's history for you. I mean, at any rate, well, we just are happy to be where we are and to have had this long career
Yeah.
that we're still like making music and still loving it.
Well, we'll blame it on the rain. You're lost. You're quote unquote lost, but there are no losers at the Grammys. Like you're saying, just to be nominated in the room there, and the exposure you get from that, and the validation you get, it's yeah, you already won, and you won them for contemporary folk. So it was a victory all the way.
It was.
All right. Well, we don't have time to go through all the albums, but I'll just say that No Band's Indian Saints went gold, and then you went platinum again for Rites of Passage in '92, and that brought us Galileo. Again, we're talking to the hands that in the voice that wrote Galileo. That was all over MTV. It was, everyone knows it. I call him the resting soul of Galileo, King of the Night Vision, King of Insight. How do you come up with that one? Was that also in Vermont pondering, or was that
Oh,
somewhere else?
I was in Georgia in my house. I remember exactly where I was. I had a friend. I had a conversation. My friend and I, Ray, she's passed on, but we were drinking some beers and we were talking about reincarnation. And the next day, I just got up and I was inspired and intrigued by that conversation. And I just started thinking about Galileo and reincarnation and all kinds of things. And then I wrote that song.
Oh, like so you were
Actually,
you
it's kind of a cool little fact because Mary Chapin Carpenter taught me a guitar tuning where you drop the low E to a D and you drop the high E to a C. And I wrote Galileo with that tuning. I used that tuning to write about 10 songs of mine. So thanks to
Whoa. Well, there you go. And there's a local connection to Wolf Trap and
I
everything because
know.
Mary Chapin Carpenter is from the DC area. In fact, well, she joined us on this same show, and she was saying that down at the Twist and Shout was a now defunct bar, a dance joint in Bethesda. So it's all local here.
We all started somewhere.
Yeah, I always think of every artist we're listening, Melissa Etheridge, Mary Chapin Carter, Indigo Girls. I kind of all think of you all in the same general of a piece, so it works out. Of course, you were inspired by her.
Well, we were all like, we all got signed within a fairly short period of time because I guess that's what record companies do. They see
Yeah.
something, Suzanne Vega did really well. Then Tracy Chapman blew us all up. And then we all, Melissa and we got signed around the same time. And Chapin and, Sean Colvin, just a bunch of really, really good, formative women singer-songwriters. So we're just happy that Amy and I, that we got scooped up during that time period.
Well, and we're naming all these people. Maybe it was Galileo reincarnated. Who knows? Maybe it was
I
actually.
don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll write another song about it. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, no, we need. I always wanted the mashup of you all and Freddie Mercury doing Galileo. Got like there's some mashup in there,
So that would
but
have been a dream. Yeah.
oh, that's hilarious. Well, and again, Romeo and Juliet with Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits was on that. Again, we don't have time to go into all of them, but just everyone, I'm dropping songs. Everyone has to go check them out. So Swampaphilia's after that, another platinum, and then Shaming of the Sun in '97. I believe that was maybe your highest charting album ever, at least in the U.S. I think it went to like number 7 on Billboard albums chart. Tell me about that lead-off track, Shame on You. I'm sure that's going to be one we hear at Wolf Trap, and unlike the other ones we mentioned, Amy wrote that one, right? So have you? I can't ask you how you came up with it, but I'm sure she's at least shared her inspiration with you.
She did. She lives up in North Georgia, and there's a big poultry industry up in that neck of the woods, and there's a lot of Hispanic people who came and worked their asses off, and there were a lot of crackdowns on immigration, even though they were doing the work to put food on our tables. So Amy was like, That's a shame, and she started writing about it. And then Steve Earle joined us on that song, and Steve Earle is playing harmonica and singing background vocals, and I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs of Amy's.
Are you talking about like Red Dirt Country, Steve
Yeah,
Earle, like Copperhead
yeah,
Road, like that Steve Earle?
the one and only. Yep.
Wow, I had no idea. And it's I want to give you credit, and also it's a sad comment on society that here we are still talking about, crackdowns on, immigration in the country. You know what I mean? Like that was '97 and here we are 2024
Like,
and
I am just like, look at the gift that people bring to our lives as a nation. And if you just stop and think and get away from the rhetoric about out, keeping people on the outside.
Yep.
It's just such a beautiful experience to have a mix of people, and these are so many people who come to work in the US. They do such hard work. I've seen it myself firsthand. And
Yep.
so I have a great appreciation for immigrants and all the struggles that they have in their other life. You know, nobody wants to cross a border unless they've suffered things in their own country and lives. I just feel that way about it, and I think we just turn our perspective and see it as a gift to this nation. You know, it's a nation, a history of immigrants, and it's a beautiful thing.
I mean, it's that's what the American dream. That's literally what the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, like that's what we're built on. We're all immigrants, if you really want to trace it back. You know what
Let's
I
not
mean?
forget. Let's just not forget. That's what we say.
And yes, I mean, yes, we all would like, yes, there's ways to, we'd like to make it, improve the system so it can be done legally, et cetera, et cetera. I'm trying to propose a bill or a bipartisan, and the other one's tanking it right now on purpose because it wouldn't be politically advantageous. But we're not going to go into that. But I think what you're saying, I'm agreeing with you, like the whole conversation and the heart and the soul behind whatever legal laws we pass needs to be this spirit of not using phrases like illegals and damning and demeaning phrases. It's this is what makes us beautiful.
I mean, the only way you could truly hate other people is if you dehumanize them. And
Yeah,
there are certain political affiliations that make an art out of that by giving us sound bites and inducing fear in people about what's being taken away from them. But the
yeah,
fact is, the statistics and the reality do not support that. So we
absolutely.
have to think for ourselves as Americans. We have to dig deep. It's a very confusing time. We're inundated with news, and news needs to keep its followers, and there's social media and all kinds of darkness and trickery and onslaught. Very hard for us to think deeply about what the real issues are and what's behind all the crazy language.
Yeah.
But that's our responsibility as citizens.
Yeah, because outrage sells and ratings and misinformation is rampant, and it is a crazy time. But thanks for being one of the voices of light, not only in immigration, but on everything, on equality. And I mean, well, and Melissa Etheridge, you have been quote unquote queer icons over the years. So you've really been leading the charge. And we talked about the Out and About Festival or the Pride Festival. How proud are you to sort of help a younger generation realize they can be themselves?
Well, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, and as it always is, there were generations and people that suffered much more than we did. But we had our own. Our documentary, "It's Only Life After All," really digs into this issue. But
Yeah.
I'm just so proud that we're part of a movement, for human rights, and particularly distressed at the onslaught of legislation and hatred towards our trans members of our trans family. And, that is the next thing that we are going to need to have more understanding and not be hateful and not be judgmental and just accept the beauty of our humanity. So, for me and Amy, we are so fortunate that we get to write songs about these things. Along the way, we've met so many mentors who have taught us about these issues. And also, we've met people who are on the ground doing the hard work. Amy and I get to be a voice, and we get to write the songs, and we get to support. But there are people who's 24/7 on the ground doing the hard work for human rights in whatever capacity it is. So our respect really goes to them. And for as far as our involvement, if we can help somebody else out who's struggling, or see that there's a way forward, if they've been outed or left behind, or criticized or anything, oppressed, we are happy to say, "You're with us and we're with you. Let's go."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just can't wait to vote. I'm telling you that the excitement right now that's building, the hope, it's palpable and it's exciting, and I want to be part of it.
Well, I mean, sort of final seconds. I mean, I guess you what? So, semi segue out of that is you got married in what, 2013? Um,
Sounds about
and
right.
yeah, Tristan and from Canada and daughter Cleo. Is that a Agnes Varda Cleo from 5 to 7 reference? Or I know that came out the year before you were born, but
Oh, we just love the name. I had a grandma named Cleo, and we just loved it, and we just kind of knew that she was going to be a Cleo.
yeah, it just fits. I love it. I love it. Are you still? I'm trying to think some other personal facts. Are you still a wine collector? I know you. I know you gave up drinking. Congrats on the sobriety. Do you still have the big 2,000 bottle wine cellar?
Oh no, that's like playing with fire. That'd be Satan in my cellar. No, I'm about to come up on 13 years of sobriety. I'm so grateful.
Bravo.
Yeah, it's an awesome way to live. And so no, I don't collect wine, but I'm happy for people who do. Because when I did, it was a fun hobby, and it's a beautiful thing to
Yeah.
grow grapes and create something beautiful. But it's not my bag
I,
anymore.
I was gonna say that's willpower if you still have that big, like Hitchcock's notorious wine cellar in the down. But you're still,
Oh man,
but
that is like I
that's
think that was
willpower.
the first thing to go. So
Yeah,
it,
but you know what? You got the knowledge now. So in interviews like this, you can talk different wines, but you don't, just not in the house.
I
Oh,
could talk different wines
yeah,
and about lots of other things. I was happy to see it go. I have
yeah,
no
yeah,
regret. I had a good run with my wine, and
yeah,
until I didn't, and it
yeah,
almost took me completely down. The documentary also talks about that quite
yeah.
openly. And
I'm hoping this interview, by the way, obviously, this is literally just like the teaser version. You have to go check out the documentary to see the full story. One final little point I wanted to talk about you giving back. Didn't you give back to Emory University? You helped fund a music room and you named it after your parents?
I did. They were building the Schwartz Center at Emory, the music facility, and there was an opportunity to give and help create that space. And so I gave a contribution to put my mom and dad's name on a practice room. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm really happy that Emory came to have a world class music program and facility there on campus. So, and I love my mom and dad. My mom's passed on, but my dad's going to be 87 this month, and he's still a fine musician and one of my best friends. So,
Oh, well, rest in peace to mom and many more years to come for dad. You said musician and a retired theology professor at Emory, I believe. Didn't you co-write write a book for him with him, a song to sing, a life to live, reflections of music as spiritual practice? Because I know you did a book signing up here in our area at the National
yeah,
Cathedral
yeah, we
with
did
him.
it in many years now since the book came out, but we did do that, and it was a really wonderful experience.
That's great. I'm so fascinated. I'm gonna, how do you square? Because I think you freaking can. All the progressive stuff that we're talking about, and LGBT stuff with the theology background of your father. Because I think they can be. I think they've been pitted against each other for way too long. But I'll turn it over to you. What do you think?
If you want to go back to the stories of Jesus, they are nothing but stories of love, acceptance. He hung out with women. He was a single man. He healed the sick. He helped the poor. All of the messages that progressive Christians take from Christianity and live their lives by are all ones that are represented that we can live by today that have nothing to do with creating fear and anger in people.
It's
So
Yep.
it was no problem for me to square it. My parents were progressive Christians, and I am more, I don't know what I call myself anymore. I definitely live by faith. It's less like associated with a certain dogma, but I've never had any problem squaring my belief in this higher power that is, connected in this. I don't even have words for it, but all I
Yeah.
know is the Christians that I believe in that follow, who are also political and social leaders, follow the purest stories of Jesus and the way that he lived his life. So I'll take that.
The Gandhi, what is it? I love your Christ, but your Christians are so unlike your Christ, a lot of them.
Yeah, yep. And anytime organized religion is organized to control people and their ways of thinking and takes away from how we celebrate the diversity and profound depth of the gift of our humanity, any religion that does that is, I think, has missed the point and is actually harmful to people and
Yeah.
to its followers. And so, we just keep doing our work on the other end of the faith spectrum.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, we would consider ourselves more progressive Christians. So, like, yeah, like I wanted to, I think that was fascinating when I saw your dad was, a theology professor, and you're talking about Galileo and reincarnation and all the progressive causes you have. I just think it's a fascinating, like, life is complex and you're just so well rounded on all of these issues. It's just such a fascinating conversation. I really appreciated this.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, and thanks for the word. And we're psyched to come back to Wolf Trap, and I just appreciate the interview.
Absolutely. Again, everybody, Emily Salier's one half of the Indigo Girls coming to Wolf Trap with the legendary Melissa Etheridge. They're going to rock your faces off at Wolf Trap August 24th and 25th. Get your tickets now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.